Hi everyone, I'm Shannon Pruitt. I am the Global Chief Content and Partnership Innovation Officer for Stagwell Brand Performance Network. We are here today at the Possible Conference, courtesy of Assembly Global, which is our omni-channel media agency. And I am delighted and so excited actually to be here today with Gayle Troberman, who is the CMO of iHeart Media. And today we're going to talk a little bit of myth busting about audio, because you and I have had so many conversations about marketers sort of marketing to ourselves.
Yep, all too often.
And not, really thinking about real people and how they're connecting and consuming. So I'm so excited to be here. Let's talk a little bit about what is audio in the context of where people are today, not, in AI and ChatGPT and all the things. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I think, Shannon, you're totally right. I think, we go into marketing because we love new and next and shiny, and we always want to learn and explore. And I think sometimes, despite, I think right now we've probably never had more data in the history of marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like there's data everywhere,
Yeah.
right? You can prove anything.
Yeah.
And I think we're almost getting lost in the signals, and we're missing some really big, obvious trends, right? So obviously I'm biased, but consumers, this is a WARC study recently, consumers spend a third of their media time today, a third of their media time with audio,
Oh my God.
right? Radio, just broadcast radio, not even digital audio streaming or podcasts. Broadcast radio has surpassed TV as the biggest reach medium in the world.
Yeah.
Broadcast radio.
I just saw that article just came out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I think a lot of marketers are finally waking up to, if you want mass reach, if you want scale, audio can't be optional anymore. It's got to be a channel in your plans.
Yeah.
And I think the other bias in marketing, and we talked a lot about this
Yeah.
recently, right? One of the other big biases is, again, we get interested and curious about things as marketers. The new, the next, the NFTs, the ChatGPTs, the AI, and the metaverse, and they're all amazing, and we should start testing and learning and piloting in new spaces, but we're missing some of the, I think, the real world for real America. So at iHeart, we reach 9 out of 10 Americans on just broadcast radio. And then we have the largest podcast network.
Right.
And we do sentiment research every week to arm all our personalities who are on 850 stations right now, live on air.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
And that's why people tune in.
That's right.
They tune in for a conversation, a little bit of music, a little bit of what's going on with people who get them.
Yeah.
And in what I call like real America, outside of the possible marketing stupidity we're sitting in right now, right? But out in the real world, I think we're so out of touch with our sentiment research says, I think a third of consumers have put something back at checkout in the last 30 days. They're worried about gas prices and buying groceries and how many people are buying, electric cars at this point? I think it's like less than 1% of the cars on the road in America, right? How many people have ever interacted with an NFT? It's less than 4% of Americans, right? And so sometimes we're just, we ignore some big obvious data and we get too far ahead of our consumers.
Right.
So the thing I love about audio, it's cheap, it's fast, it's easy, it's accessible. The more raw and unscripted, the more human you make it, the better it works.
And you have sort of this really interesting ecosystem, right? So you just mentioned your talent. And, I am a mother of 3 children. I carpool with my friends' children. And what's hilarious is we'll be listening to 102.7 and the kids are like, what happened on Ryan's Roses? I'm like, is it an appropriate thing that we're listening? I don't know. But sort of this notion of really DJs as the original influencers, and still are, right? This co-listening and again, part of your everyday life, which gives this emotional connection to the moment, to the experience, to the person, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's why, people, it's so funny because we all think people tune in for the music, and obviously music is a huge part of it, whether it's pop or hip hop or country or K-pop or alt. But what, our biggest shows like Ryan Seacrest, right? He reaches, probably 10 million people every morning, and he plays 3 songs an hour.
Yeah.
So people are tuning in to hang with Ryan and Sissany and the cast and have a conversation about everything
Anya
that's
and
going
hear
on.
about her astrology.
Exactly, and they feel like they know these people. Podcasters are very similar because they're unscripted. They're themselves, right? They're not reading a script. They're not acting. They're not playing a character. So they're vulnerable and they're human and they're real and they're honest and they have good days and bad. And their fans are super fans, right? We did a study recently that showed, I think the average audio influencer, like a radio host or a podcast host, has twice as much trust with their listeners than a social influencer does with their fans. Right? So when they say, hey, I tried this new product, we're hanging out with this brand recently and they showed us some new stuff, and you know, it's a really interesting opportunity here with X and you could do Y, and if you can make our influencers fans of your brands, they'll be fans, real fans with big trust.
I wonder, you know, in terms of thinking about brands, you know, I think it's so interesting having had the opportunity to spend time with you and your teams and kind of unpack a little the ecosystem that you have. You know, in terms of working with brands, what are sort of some best, you know, not just best practices, but like, you know, best in class in the way to think about working within the iHeart ecosystem? You have a creative studio, you have so many sort of resources available for brands as well that aren't sure maybe how to navigate into the space.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't like dug deep with audio, so we have one of the best audio creative studios, and we collaborate with all kinds of brands and all kinds of categories. Some great examples, T-Mobile is a huge client of ours. Years back when they couldn't outspend their competitors in TV, they said, we're not going to try and just spend less. We're going to take a different strategy. And they went really deep with radio and our influencers, gave them phones, made them ambassadors for T-Mobile, and it really worked well. It got them into big cities and it got them into rural areas and everything in between. And they've really built a really strong body of work and proof around the power of audio. One of my favorite examples of using sort of audio influencers creatively is Unilever. A little while back, Justin Bieber had tweeted that he missed the double popsicle. And they were like, oh my God, we will bring back the double popsicle if enough people retweet Bieber's tweet. And they went to the usual social platforms to try to get that to catch, and it just wasn't gonna hit. It wasn't catching enough fast enough, and they had a short window of time to make this decision on bringing back the product. And so they came to us and we said, we're going to go on air on every station in America and we're going to talk about double popsicles and tell people to retweet. And that's what we did. We started the biggest conversation about a popsicle probably ever had in the world. And they hit their numbers in, I think it was like 24, 48 hours.
Wow. Speed of culture, right?
Exactly.
Speed of velocity
speed
of
sound,
culture.
Speed of culture.
Yeah. And also kind of that ability to listen, react, program that, right? And then for you guys to show up and be like, we're in, let's go.
Totally.
And then the context, right? It was such relevant context.
You can explain it, you can give it texture, and it might need to sound different on a pop station than a hip hop station, right? Seacrest talks about things differently than the Breakfast Club, as they should. So one of the things we always try to coach clients on is let our hosts interpret your messages.
Right.
Don't like script them, and you usually get better results.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know we're running short on time, so, but I just want, like, we're here at Possible. You know, what are you excited about? You know, we talk about how marketers are curious and leaned in and all those things. Like, what are you excited about over the next couple of days?
Sure. You know, I'm excited that I think people are really waking up to the possibility with audio.
Yes, I think that's true.
I love, and you know, I think for you guys at Stagwell, and I think so much opportunity. If you're looking for the next green creative field, doing audio well and figuring out how you get in my head and use music and soundscapes in new, fresh ways, right? Like you know, I always say like the word jingle has kind of that dated connotation, but what's the new brand hook? What's the new brand riff? How do you use audio and mnemonics and sound? And so I just think the creative possibilities of audio are endless, and I think all the smartest new creatives are just starting to wake up to that. So
I think that's so true. I love that. I think the brands, there's so much opportunity. My favorite story was that, you know, Justin Timberlake created the McDonald's mnemonic, da 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 da, And then all of a sudden, he used to sing it, and then he stopped, and now we still know it, and everybody still
and
knows.
you can have the notes, you can put the words next to it, you cannot, and it works, right? Because they own it, and you know it's not Wendy's, and you know it's not Sonic, and right, you know what brand that is with just 3 notes.
Yeah.
Think how powerful that is, audio branding.
Well, thank you, Gayle, for your time. It was so lovely to see you. I hope you enjoy the conference, and I hope that everybody out there really does sort of consider everything that we talked about, because I think in terms of actually the possibility of reaching people and connecting with them and convincing them, it is such a
The
powerful.
scale is there, and the creative possibilities are endless. So I'm sure we can make something happen.
I'm sure you can.
Awesome.
All right. Well, so good to see you. Thank you so much.